Monks, form is not self. The Buddha speaks, a reflection on aging, loss, and the liberation of seeing. Part 1. The Witness of Years. There are certain truths that cannot be grasped through intellect alone. They cannot be understood by reading, by studying, by hearing the words of another. They can only be known through the slow, patient unfolding of time. They can only be seen when the body itself becomes the teacher, when the mirror becomes the sermon, when the wrinkles and the grey hairs and the aching joints become the voice of the Dhamma itself. For 60 years, one walks through this world believing one is this body. One wakes each morning and looks in the mirror and sees oneself. One feels the strength in one's legs and calls it mine. One touches the smoothness of one's skin and calls it mine. The body is so close, so familiar, so utterly present that it seems impossible that it is not oneself. How could it not be oneself? It is the only thing one has ever truly known. It is the only thing one has ever truly been. But time has a way of teaching what words cannot. Time has a way of revealing what the mind refuses to see. And now, at 60, one looks back and understands. Not because one has read the suttas more carefully, not because one has meditated more deeply, but because one has aged. One has seen oneself turn into an old person. One has watched the body betray, day by day, year by year, until the betrayal became so obvious that it could no longer be denied. One remembers one's youth, the strength one had, the smooth skin, the thick dark hair. One looked in the mirror and saw someone young, someone vital, someone who would live forever. One did not say this out loud. One did not consciously believe it, but deep in the bones, one believed it. One could not imagine that this body would ever fail. One could not imagine that it would ever age. One could not imagine that it would ever die. The denial was woven into the very fabric of being. One did not choose to deny aging. One simply could not imagine it. The body was so present, so alive, so real, that death seemed like a story about someone else, someone far away, someone who had not been careful, but not oneself, never oneself. And then, imperceptibly at first, the unravelling began. A twinge in the knee that did not go away, a stiffness in the back that became permanent, a grey hair, then another, then many. The first time one looked in the mirror and did not recognise oneself, at 55 perhaps, an old person with tired eyes and sagging skin. One looked and thought, "Who is that?" And then one realised, it was oneself. It had always been oneself. One had just refused to see it. The years passed. The hair became thin and white. The skin became wrinkled and loose. The legs became weak and unreliable. The body that had served so faithfully was now failing, day by day, year by year. And with the failing came the suffering, the grief of loss, the desperate wish that things could be different. The young person was gone. That person would never return. One had spent a whole life believing one was that person, and now that person was dead. And then there were the others, the generations who came before. One remembers one's parents, strong and vital, the way one once was. The father who could fix anything. The mother who was always there. One watched them age. One watched them slow down. One watched them grow frail. One watched them die. The father at 82. One held his hand as he took his last breath, and something shifted inside. The man who had seemed so permanent was gone. The mother followed a few years later. The generation that had raised one was gone, and one was next. One could feel it. One was standing at the edge of one's own generation, looking into the abyss. One looks at childhood friends, college classmates, colleagues. Many are gone now. Some died young, others died old. Some are still alive, but they are not the people they used to be. They are old now, like oneself. They are facing the end, like oneself. One looks at one's children. They are adults now, strong and vital, the way one once was. One watches them with a mix of love and sorrow because one knows what awaits them. One knows that they will age, one knows that they will sicken, one knows that they will die, and one cannot protect them from any of it. The body is not kind, the body is not merciful, the body is not theirs, no matter how much they believe it is. And then, one day, it happened, the seeing. The moment when the teaching became real. One was looking in the mirror at 60 years old. The hair was white, the face was lined, the eyes were tired. One looked and thought, this is not me. Not as a belief, not as a philosophy, but as a direct seeing. One looked at the old person in the mirror and knew with absolute certainty that this was not oneself. This was a body. This was a form. This was a collection of cells and bones and tissues that had been growing old for 60 years. But this was not oneself, not truly, not in the way one had always believed. And then one understood. Form is not self, not because someone told one so, but because one had seen it for oneself. One had commanded the body to stay young, and it had refused. One had commanded it not to age, and it had aged anyway. One had begged it to remain strong, and it had grown weak. One had tried to hold on to it, and it had slipped through the fingers like water. The body is not mine. The body is not me. The body is not myself. One looked back at one's youth. The young person one had been was gone. That person was a memory now, a ghost, a story told about who one used to be. But that person was not oneself, not anymore. And perhaps that person had never been oneself. Perhaps that person was just a body, a form, a temporary arrangement of matter that had come together and would soon fall apart. The young person was not oneself. The old person is not oneself. There is no self to be found in any of it. And in that moment, the suffering stopped. Not all of it. The body still ached. The knees still hurt. The face still showed the signs of aging. But the suffering of clinging, the grief of loss, the desperate wish that things could be different, all of that fell away. It was like a weight being lifted from the shoulders. One had been carrying this burden one's whole life, this burden of believing one was this body, and now one had put it down. The body remained. The attachment was gone. Part 2. The Buddha's Teaching. This is what the Buddha taught in his second sermon, the Anattalakkhana Sutta, delivered to the 5 monks at the deer park in Isipatana. He had already given them the 4 noble truths. Now he gave them the method of investigation. He began with the most immediate thing, the body. Monks, form is not self. These words were not a question. They were not a proposition to be debated. They were a statement of seeing. The Buddha did not ask the monks to believe him. He asked them to look. He invited them to consider what a self would be, if such a thing truly existed. And he invited them to compare that imagined self with the actual experience of having a body. He presented 2 arguments. The argument from obedience. If something were truly mine, truly me, truly my own, then I would be its master. I could command it. It would obey. That is the nature of ownership. That is the nature of selfhood. If my body were truly mine, truly me, truly my own, then I could speak to it as a king speaks to a servant. I could say, let this form be thus, let this form not be thus. This means I could command my body to remain young. I could command it never to be sick. I could command it not to die. The body would be entirely at my disposal, a perfect servant, a faithful instrument. That is what a true self would be. Absolute master. Perfect obedience, no betrayal. But this is not our experience. Look at your own body. Have you ever commanded it not to age? You wake one morning and the face in the mirror is older than the face you remember. Did you order this? No. The change came without your permission. The body disobeyed you while you were sleeping. You did not consent to this. The body simply changed, as bodies do. Have you ever commanded it not to sicken? You breathe, and the breath burns. Your head pounds. Your stomach rejects food. You did not choose any of this. The body turned against you from the inside. Every fever, every ache, every moment of nausea is a reminder that the body is not your servant. It is an independent process, unfolding according to its own laws. Have you ever commanded it not to die? No one has. Every person who has ever lived has tried in small ways to push death away. We eat well, we exercise, we take medicines, we pray, and still death comes. The heart stops, the breath ceases, the warmth leaves. The body does not obey. It never has. Therefore, the Buddha concluded, form is not self. If it were self, it would obey. It does not obey, so it is not self. We have spent our lives mistaking a disobedient servant for an obedient master. We have called mine what we cannot command. We have called me what we cannot control. We have called myself what we cannot keep. The argument from suffering. But precisely because form is not self, form lends itself to suffering. The phrase lends itself is precise and beautiful. Form is not itself suffering. A young, healthy, fed body feels pleasant. The Buddha never denied this. He did not teach that the body is suffering. He taught that the body lends itself to suffering. It offers itself up to suffering the way a dry forest lends itself to fire. The potential for suffering is built into the very nature of having a body. Why is this? Because form changes. Whatever is born will age. Whatever ages will sicken. Whatever sickens will die. You cannot have a body that comes into being without also having a body that passes away. Birth and death are not two things. They are the same thing seen from two ends. First, the suffering of aging. You do not choose to lose your youthful skin, your strong legs, your clear eyes. Aging is an invasion. It takes things from you while you sleep, and because you remember what you had, the loss is suffering. Second, the suffering of sickness. The body turns against itself. A fever rises, a joint inflames, a growth appears. You did not invite any of this. The body that was your home becomes your prison. You cannot leave. You cannot negotiate. Third, the suffering of death. At the end, the breath stops, the heart rests, the warmth leaves. You do not choose this moment. It chooses you. All your plans, all your loves, all your memories. The body drops them the way a hand drops a stone. Fourth, the suffering of not getting what you want. You want the body to be beautiful. It gives you pimples, scars, wrinkles. You want it to be strong. It gives you fatigue, weakness, injury. Every desire you direct towards the body is met, eventually, with refusal. Fifth, the suffering of getting what you do not want. You do not want to be hungry. The body makes you hungry. You do not want to feel pain. The body delivers pain without asking. You do not want to die, but you will die. The Buddha concluded, if form were the self, none of this would happen. A true self would not betray you. But form betrays you every day. It betrays you because it changes. It changes because it is not yours. And because it is not yours, it hurts. The instruction. Thus, monks, any form whatsoever, past, future or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all form should be seen as it actually is with right wisdom. This is not mine. This is not I. This is not myself. The Buddha asked the monks to leave nothing out. Every kind of form, every manifestation of the body, every instance of physicality, all of it should be seen clearly, not some of it, all form, without exception, past form. The body you had as a child, as a young person, as a middle-aged person, gone, not yours anymore. You cannot get it back. You cannot command it to return. You might wish for that younger body, but the wishing is suffering. And the suffering comes from a mistake. You are calling mine what is not yours. Future form. The body you will have tomorrow, next year, on your deathbed. Not yours yet, not yours ever, really. You cannot plan for it fully. No amount of planning will make it truly yours. Present form. This body sitting here, breathing this air. Not yours even now. It seems to be yours. It feels so close, so intimate, so undeniably me. But look again. Can you command it? No. And so, even now, this body is not yours. Internal form. Your own body. The flesh, the bones, the organs. It seems so personal. But look at it clearly. It changes. It disobeys. It betrays. You did not choose your height. You did not choose your eye colour. These things were given to you, and they will be taken from you. External form. The bodies of others, the trees, the deer, the earth. None of this is yours. You may feel connected. You may love them. But they are not yours. They are independent processes. Gross form. The solid bones, the flesh, the visible skin, not yours. You can touch your skin, but you cannot keep it from wrinkling. Sut form. The breath, the heat, the energy, not yours. The breath comes and goes on its own. The cells divide and die without your permission. Inferior form. The body that is sick, weak, ugly by some measure, not yours. Even this body, which you might wish away, is borrowed. Superior form. The body that is healthy, strong, beautiful, not yours. Even this body, which you might cling to, is borrowed. Far form. Bodies on the other side of the world, not yours. Near form. The body you feel from the inside, not yours. Even this intimate experience is a process, a flow, not a possession. All form, without exception, seen as it actually is, not as you wish it to be, not as you fear it to be, but as it actually is, changing, disobedient, borrowed, temporary, not mine, not I, not myself. The result, seeing thus, monks, the instructed noble disciple grows disenchanted with form. Disenchantment is not disgust. It is not hatred. It is not a rejection of the body. Disenchantment is the natural cooling that comes from seeing clearly. When you see that something you once thought was yours is not yours at all, you stop clinging to it. Not because you force yourself to stop, but because clinging to what is not yours is simply foolish. The seeing does the work. Disenchanted, he grows dispassionate. Dispassion is not coldness. It is the end of being burned. When you no longer believe that this form can give you lasting happiness, you stop reaching for it with desperate hands. You let it be. It rises. It falls. You watch. You do not burn. The fire of craving dies down, not because you extinguish it, but because you stop feeding it. Dispassionate, he is liberated. Liberation is not the end of the body. The body still breathes. It still ages. It still will die. Liberation is the end of the delusion that the body is yours. And when that delusion ends, the suffering that came from that delusion also ends. The first arrow of physical pain may still land. The body will still feel hunger, fatigue, illness. But the second arrow, the one you throw yourself, the one made of crying mine, and why me, and this should not be happening, that arrow falls to the ground. It is not thrown anymore, and in liberation he knows, birth is exhausted, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more coming back to any state of being. This is the knowledge of one who has seen clearly. Birth, the cause of the body, is exhausted. The chain has been broken. What had to be done has been done, not because the body will not be born again, but because the one who was born, the one who called the body mine, has been seen through. That one is gone. What remains is free. Part 3. What remains? When the Blessed One spoke this discourse, the mind of the Venerable Kondana was liberated from the taints through non-clinging. He saw directly what the Buddha had shown. He did not believe it. He saw it. He experienced it. The seeing was not intellectual. It was transformative. Form is not mine. Form is not I. Form is not myself. The body still sat on the grass. The breath still moved in and out. But something had shifted. Not the body, the clinging to the body. Kondana saw that he had spent his whole life defending a house that was never his. And in that seeing, the defense stopped. The house remained. The owner left. This teaching is not a philosophy to believe. It is a way of seeing to be practiced. The body will still age. It will still sicken. It will still die. The Buddha never promised otherwise. What he promised was the end of the suffering that comes from calling it mine. What he promised was peace. You can test this for yourself. Look at your own body. Command it to stop aging. See what happens. See that it does not obey. See that because it does not obey, it lends itself to suffering. And then ask, is this truly mine? Is this truly me? Is this truly myself? If the answer is no, not as a belief, but as a direct seeing, then the path has begun. The door has opened. The first step has been taken, and the rest of the path lies open before you. But you must see for yourself. No one else can see for you. The Buddha can point, the teachings can describe, but the seeing must be your own. You must look at your body. You must feel its disobedience. You must witness its betrayal. And in that witnessing, you must let go. Not because letting go is a virtue, but because holding on is a mistake. You are holding on to what is not yours. You are claiming ownership of what you cannot control. You are calling me what is not you. And because of this mistake, you suffer. The mistake is simple. The suffering is profound. And the end of the suffering is as close as the end of the mistake. Form is not mine. Form is not I. Form is not myself. You can say these words. You can repeat them like a mantra. But that is not enough. The words are only pointing. They are pointing to something you must see. The body is not yours. Not because someone tells you so, but because you have seen it for yourself. You have commanded it to obey, and it has refused. You have begged it to remain young, and it has grown old. You have pleaded with it not to die, and one day it will. You have seen all of this. You have witnessed it with your own eyes, and in that witnessing, you have understood. That is the teaching. That is the seeing. That is the door. How we relate to our bodies changes. We stop obsessing over appearance. We stop fearing aging. We stop fighting sickness. We stop dreading death. We care for the body, but we are not attached to the outcome. We treat the body with kindness and respect, but we do not mistake it for ourselves. The body is a vehicle, not an identity. It is a gift, not a possession. We use it well and we let it go. How we relate to others changes. We stop judging people by their bodies. We stop valuing people for their youth or beauty. We see that everyone is in the same boat, riding the same wave of aging, sickness, and death. We feel compassion for all beings who suffer under the delusion that they are their bodies. How we relate to death changes. We stop fearing it. We see that death is not the end of the self. It is the end of the delusion that there was a self to begin with. We see that death is a natural part of life. We do not seek it. We do not hasten it. But we do not fear it. We accept it. We welcome it when it comes, as a friend. Sit quietly for a moment. Feel your body. Feel the breath moving in and out. Feel the heart beating. Feel the sensations arising and passing. And ask yourself, is this truly me? If the body is me, then I am born. I grow, I age, I sicken, I die. If the body is me, then I am subject to all the changes of the body. I am at the mercy of time. I am a prisoner of this form. But if the body is not me, then I am not born, I do not grow, I do not age, I do not sicken, I do not die. I am not subject to the changes of the body. I am not at the mercy of time. I am not a prisoner of this form. Which is true? The Buddha says the second is true. The body is not me. The body is not mine. The body is not myself. Test this for yourself. Look at your body. See that it does not obey. See that it lends itself to suffering. See that it is not yours. And in that seeing, let go. Let go of the delusion. Let go of the clinging. Let go of the suffering. And in that letting go, be free.